And 18 days. That was a draw, but Magnus at some point outplayed Kasparov in that game.
Definitely.
Do you know how old Abhimanyu Mishra is today?
The exact same.
Almost! He is only 3 days younger than Magnus was at that time.
Guess what opening it is?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's bad news. You know, what was the highest scoring opening?
This
White?
one, the Slav.
It was the Slav
Oh
defense.
no,
and this is what
Abhimanyu
we're-
Mishra.
No one's told him about the statistics.
Oh.
Maybe we should have released it before to all the players and gone, here you go.
Yeah, and Magnus, meanwhile, he's chosen a kind of rare branch of the Slav. White has temporarily given up a pawn, but White is about to get the bishop pair. So White's knight has gone to the edge of the board and is going to take off the black light squared bishop. And expert yesterday getting some great positions out of the opening Mishra. So I'm sure he knows what he's doing, despite the stats that we saw of the Slav defense. And OK, current position, black is a pawn up, but black has 2 sets of double pawns on the c file and the f file.
Unbalancing the situation seems to be a good choice, because if you play a standard position against Magnus, you're probably going to get outplayed. So at least he's got some sort of strange structure, and we see Magnus has now won the pawn back, but black has very good control of central squares with his knights coming into those squares.
White's light squared bishop again. It's under attack by one of the black knights, so that white light squared bishop is going to take a step back.
And Magnus playing the most popular move in my database. And, well, Abhimanyu now playing something that's second choice. Yeah, in fact, Sam, of course, producing a Chessable course on the semi-Slav.
Know where the Slav can go wrong for black, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very solid opening for black. It's often a part of players' repertoires when they're quite young.
And I think, you know what, just they're waiting. Well, now he's played f3, so that's quite interesting.
Yeah, that's a great point, Carl, there. If White does castle, I think this is a huge practical mistake because, I mean, if I were playing Simon, for example, he would not hesitate. He would throw Harry the H-pawn down the board, try and open up this black rook towards the white king. And if black gets one more move, throws this pawn forward again, then it's exactly what you mentioned there. This white pawn is what we call a hook. It kind of helps black to even open the position.
That pawn is coming forward and it's going to cause a lot of, well, I would say worries on the right side. And Abhimanyu kind of playing a little bit calmer. He steps back with the bishop.
Still, this kind of dilemma remains. White's going to kind of keep you guessing which side you're going on. And, OK, Magnus does play this exact move, very logical, maybe at some point hinting that he's going to push forward in the centre. But how does this bishop move help? I don't really understand.
A lot of people his age, he was quite a lot younger than me when I was playing, and they get quite scared, you know, because I'd play quite quickly, and you could just tell they gave you far too much respect. And I remember playing Gwaine.
And, I mean, takes a lot of skill and courage. And finally, we have Harry moving 2 squares up the board, and the Grandmaster just go, let's play, kid. And that was it. He was like, oh, no.
50 moves.
Yeah, or the repetitions, the 3-move repetitions.
Yeah, or ending
But that
up
is
with
kind of a draw agreement, though, isn't it?
It's always ends up king versus king, or it ends up in a repetition of moves. So why have the draw offers anyway?
Because I was actually told the reverse by a very strong Grandmaster. He said it's actually much easier to defend.
Yes, it feels a bit inconsistent, some of his play. I like black's last move, just tucking the king away closer to the corner. Just good general kind of chess wisdom. If you castle on the long side, just spend an extra move, pushing your king as close to the corner of the board as possible. It's just safer there. But somehow it just feels a bit slow.
But it just seems a little bit strange. And this is, OK, things are going to certainly change now after Magnus pushing aggressively in the centre. But why play your Harold pawn? Why then play in the middle, and then play on the other side? And then, you know, you're kind of just not really doing anything consistent here.
That's exactly what Magnus has done throughout his career. He's dominated games. It's a bit like in sport, controlling possession, not allowing your opponent any chances. And it's rare for a kind of a weaker team to do that. And, yeah, in chess, at least Mishra yesterday, he showed he can dominate.
You generally have an advantage because you're more flexible when you use that centre, and that's where Magnus's main advantage, I'd have thought, is in this position, and the 2 bishops, of course.
Yeah.
Nice
And,
move, just sliding away with the white queen out of the eye line of the black rook. So now, for example, if we see a trade of knights, this is what we call the ultimate centre.
Oh, yeah.
Just supporting everything, replacing pawns with other pawns.
You put up the perfect opening for white, and the pawns isn't that exact position.
Yeah, as I say that, I'm not sure which way Magnus will take back. He's taking with the bishop. He also has a lot to say for it. But yeah, either way, the ideal center.
To me, like beginner level, this looks so good for white.
Yeah.
And it is good, and it's just simply an easier position for white. They also, because white controls the center, have the potential just to go to the right, go to the left. They have that flexibility.
And yeah, that's a bit of a weird analogy. But, you know, let's not picture that too much.
Like Hannibal Lecter there.
Well, you know, got to, have you met any? Have you met any kind of?
I couldn't possibly comment.
Okay, just wondering.
But there is a point here that about chess, about knowing when to hold and when to push, is really important in a general sense, because many people, myself included, have lost games that we could easily have held if we just waited, sit back, wait to move. No, we have to go for it, don't we? Too compulsive. Know when to wait, know when to go.
Inspired by Paul Morphy, Abhimanyu Mishra maybe, but struggling in this game.
Wow, there's been a few changes actually
Okay.
in this position, because Abhimanyu, you know, he didn't sit and wait. He was like, well, let me challenge the white pawn center. And I was a little bit surprised to see Magnus actually capture that pawn. Those pawns look weak on the right side, but at the same time, they have the potential to generate some dynamic play.
Yeah, and at least the black knight is no longer a dead piece. Black's knight can jump into the center of the board to the d5 square later. It does have potential. If you can. Okay, first he trades rooks. Is the intention now, next move, to jump into the middle of the board with the black knight?
Interesting. And well, Abhimanyu Mishra, he has ticked down to 3 minutes on the clock, and he takes it with a bishop.
Retreating a bishop to the first rank is not such a bad thing. Okay, Mishra, he knew one of his pawns was doomed, so he threw it forward, and now 2 Harrys are better than 1, right, Simon? White has 2 H pawns.
Ooh.
That's what they say. I think the main point here is that's a pass pawn. So in the ending, it could become a queen because there's nothing obstructing it.
And Black pushes his pass pawn forward. He's created a pass pawn of his own.
Pawn, especially a passed one.
Now White has a permanent blockade on the light squares.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah, I think both kings are pretty safe right now. White's king potentially a bit vulnerable, but it can just shuffle off into the corner if it really needs to. First, Mishra trying to activate his knight.
I would love that.
Stockfish. a lot of people do that online.
That's true.
Too many people do that online.
Unfortunately, they do.
But yeah.
But look at that! Look at that intense look. I mean, that's frightening. That's really, really off-putting.
Yeah.
I'm sure he doesn't mean it, but he just has that fixed glaze.
Yeah. Taking some prisoners?
Perfect day.
I'm taking no prisoners.
Okay, no prisoners.
Yeah, not that day.
Should I say then Happy Jubilee Day? How do you?
It's in
Probably.
June.
Oh, okay, so it's not yet.
It's
No,
like the
preparations,
3rd to the 5th
though.
of June.
But I will remember.
Yeah.
All right, we do have some moves, and Magnus did decide which way to go with his bishop.
Yeah, and I really like what Mishra's done on the last move, at least. I think it was a very necessary decision to jump in with the black knight, and there has been a trade, so let's check out what's happened. And, OK, Magnus not getting greedy and allowing a pawn to survive. So if we backtrack just one move, we see that in this position, Black's knight, yes, it's on a great outpost, but it's not really affecting play. You need to get rid of White's bishop pair. That is the #1 priority. The longer the game goes on, the more powerful they'll become. So still roughly in the balance. Mishra's fighting back after a very difficult position.
Good time, David. 15 seconds, is that right?
Wow, OK.
I mean,
let's go back to the players, actually, because the clock is going to play a big, big factor. I think it's...
You move it 2 squares, it's defended by the bishop, and here it goes.
It's running.
So strong, that pawn. And it could... OK, you've got to try to guard it with the bishop. The bishop does control the queening square of White's pawn, but the bishop is also very loose there. It's in a pin. There could be some nasty tactics like queen check, and everything gets traded off. So
if Black just takes a time out, pushes a pawn, OK, he pushes this pawn, that's important, but then a check, as Simon says.
Yeah, and a very
in
strong
the current
one.
position, as Jovanka mentions, this is... OK, it has just happened.
Yeah.
Queen takes pawn is not a blunder. It's not a mouse slip. If the white queen is taken, then White can recapture the black queen. And this rook now cannot actually go and grab the white rook because it has to keep an eye on this corner square. It has to keep an eye on the white pawn. OK, the queen trade is about to happen. Mishra down to 5 seconds, though. And, OK, that was a check. Black's queen blocked. Block off Black's rook. OK, the white bishop, though, is going to act as the blockader. It's going to go up to g8 and... Look at this. This is going to lock in that black rook into the corner.
Actually, I love... Well, I'd be tempted to play rook takes bishop here, just show off.
Yeah.
But I don't know. This move is very visual. I like these visual little things where the rook is trapped. And
We've been talking about chess and prisons. That black rook is a prisoner now, right? It can never get out. And you can just look at the rest of the board, count the rest of the pieces.
he's played this move. This this looked like a very pretty way of winning with the white king running in eventually in the ending.
Yeah, so white's actually down on material right now, but white is completely winning because that black rook is caged in. And the black pawn in the middle is going to drop sooner or later.
I like you're kind of saying it's like they don't exist. It's like it is true. Yeah. It certainly is.
It's actually better than not existing for white because that white bishop takes away some squares from the black king. White's bishop actually plays an active part. Black's rook is a passive.
Actually, having the extra H pawn helps a lot here because you can use that to save time at the right case, and black's probably going to run out of moves.
We're going to reach a position already that's that's called Zugzwang. That means any move black makes will worsen his own position. And look at the black king; it's completely stuck defending black's pawn in the middle of the board. Sooner or later, black's running out of moves. There's nothing else to do. Black's king is going to have to give way, and white will just use his king, take the black pawn in the center, and start darting towards the black rook.
But does he need to take that black pawn before he starts running forwards?
Yes.
Aha.
He'll wait until black runs out of moves. He'll take that black pawn in the center, and then the white king will go towards that black rook. It's game over. There we go. The black king had to move. And Mishra is trying to adopt a formation we call the opposition, where black's king blocks off white's king from moving forward. But again, as Simon said, white can wait sooner or later with this pawn. That is a very useful pawn. We talked about those two Harry pawns. This one is actually doing the winning.
And is it now Zugzwang already, or are we getting there?
It will be in the next move. So any move that Abhimanyu makes will just worsen his position. He would just actually like just to go pass.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you can't do that in chess.
And I think we'll see a result any moment. Just we'll explain it maybe in more detail a bit later. But the black king is going to have to give way. No matter which way the black king goes, the white king will go the opposite way. And trade of pawns will not help black. Here we go. The white king is coming in now. And black's king unable to help.
It's getting close then, I guess. A win for Magnus Carlsen, striking back after losing to Prague in round 5. Mishra giving it a good go, but of course, facing the world champion, it will be hard for a 13-year-old.
And we saw a quick flurry of moves there. White's king did grab the remaining black pawn. And it's not only one pawn that black has to deal with now. All of those white pawns are pushing forward. And you can tell on the body language, Magnus knows it's winning, and Mishra gives up.
It's over. A win for Magnus Carlsen, striking back, winning against the youngest Grandmaster in history. It's a long and interesting game.